It starts with a briefing you're not cleared for yet. Someone slides a folder across a table in a room that, according to every official record, is a regional logistics office for a mid-size agricultural supply company. The folder has a logo on it, a circle, 3 arrows pointing inward. You open it. The first page is a photograph of something that cannot exist. It exists anyway. Welcome, the second page says, to the SCP Foundation. Please initial next to the paragraph confirming you understand that your previous life, for all practical purposes, is now a cover story. You initial it. You will spend the rest of your life wondering if that was the right call. Level 1. The researcher. Your first assignment is documentation. Not fieldwork. Not containment. Documentation. You sit in a facility that smells like fluorescent lighting and institutional anxiety, reading files about anomalies that have already been contained, writing reports about anomalies that are currently being contained, and attending meetings about anomalies that someone, somewhere, is in the process of containing right now, probably having a significantly worse Tuesday than you are. The work is, in the most genuinely strange possible way, bureaucratic. There are forms, specific forms, for specific categories of anomalous event, with specific fields that require specific language. You learn that the Foundation's relationship with the impossible is fundamentally administrative. Something defies the laws of physics, and you document it in triplicate. You develop opinions about filing systems. This is not what you imagined when you joined an organization dedicated to securing, containing, and protecting reality from things that should not be real. You imagined something more cinematic, more urgent, less filing. Then one Tuesday, a researcher 3 doors down opens a file on an anomaly that has a specific auditory component, and the sound travels through the ventilation system, and 17 people have to be amnesticized before lunch. You update your opinion of the filing system. The filing system is there for a reason. The filing system is the only thing standing between you and a building full of people who have forgotten how to form sentences. You become very good at the filing system. Level 2. The field agent. Fieldwork is different from documentation in the way that reading about weather is different from standing in it. Your first containment assignment involves something that appears, on the surface, to be a vending machine. This is not as straightforward as it sounds. Nothing in this work is as straightforward as it sounds. The vending machine has properties that the briefing document describes in 17 pages of dense technical language that ultimately amounts to: do not make eye contact with the vending machine, do not accept anything the vending machine offers, and under no circumstances attempt to unplug the vending machine without authorization from at least 3 separate departments. You ask why it takes 3 departments to authorize unplugging a vending machine. Your supervisor looks at you the way people look at someone who has just asked why you shouldn't tap the glass at the aquarium. You stop asking questions and start learning by observation, which is the actual curriculum of Foundation fieldwork. Nobody teaches you anything directly. They put you near increasingly significant problems and watch how you respond. You are, functionally, an anomaly yourself, a person being tested for reactions under conditions that would cause most humans to update their entire understanding of the universe. You update yours gradually, which your supervisors note as a positive indicator. The field teaches you one thing above everything else. The world is stranger than the Foundation's files suggest, and the Foundation's files suggest it is extraordinarily strange. Level 3. The Ethics Committee. You get promoted, eventually, into rooms where the decisions are made, not the containment decisions. Those happen in other rooms, by people with more field experience and slightly less concern for the questions you've started asking. The decisions in your new room are harder. Not technically, but morally, which it turns out is the harder kind. An anomaly can be contained at the cost of significant resources and moderate personnel risk, or neutralized at no ongoing cost and no personnel risk. Neutralized means something specific in Foundation language that everyone in the room understands and no one says directly. You learn to speak this language. This takes longer than you expected and costs more than the orientation materials implied. The Foundation is not evil. You've thought about this carefully, in the specific way you think about things you need to be sure of. It does necessary work. It stands between a reality that mostly doesn't know what it's standing next to and the things standing next to it. The people in your room are, individually, thoughtful and serious, and genuinely trying to do right by a situation that has no clean options. They've also authorized things you still think about at 3 a.m. Both things are true. You've gotten used to both things being true. You've gotten used to this a little too smoothly, which is itself something you think about at 3 a.m. Level 4. The chaos insurgency. You don't defect. That's important to establish. What you do is attend a meeting that you don't fully understand the nature of until you're already in it, with people who left the Foundation for reasons they describe compellingly, and which you find yourself, despite your better judgment, not entirely able to dismiss. The chaos insurgency believes the Foundation is hoarding. Not money. Not power, exactly. Anomalies. Reality-altering, world-changing, civilizational leap-enabling anomalies, locked in containment chambers and managed by a bureaucracy that has decided the correct response to the impossible is to file it and forget it. You find this argument irritating because it's not entirely wrong. You also find it irritating because the people making it have, on several documented occasions, released things that should not be released in the service of a philosophy that sounds coherent in a meeting room and catastrophic in application. You leave the meeting. You file a report. You spend 2 weeks wondering why the argument bothered you as much as it did, and eventually conclude that the most dangerous ideas are the ones that are partially correct and entirely reckless. This doesn't make them less compelling. This makes them more. Level 5. The Global Occult Coalition. The GOC operates from the premise that the Foundation is too conservative, not morally, operationally. Where the Foundation contains, the GOC neutralizes, with the specific efficiency of an international organization that has decided the paperwork involved in maintaining a containment chamber is a poor use of resources that could be spent on artillery. You spend 3 months on a joint operation and come away with a complicated opinion. The GOC gets results, undeniably, measurably, in ways that show up in outcome metrics and threat reduction statistics. They also get results with a certainty that occasionally troubles you. The Foundation, for all its bureaucratic slowness, has a culture of uncertainty, of acknowledging that something you don't understand is something you shouldn't necessarily destroy. The GOC is very sure about things. Very sure people with significant firepower are, in your experience, a specific category of unsettling that sits outside the standard anomaly classification system. You finish the joint operation. You file the report. You recommend continued limited cooperation and decreased operational integration, which is diplomatic language for their useful and also slightly terrifying, and you'd like some distance between yourself and their certainty. Level 6, the Serpent's Hand. The library is real. This takes you longer to process than most anomalous discoveries, which is strange because by this point, you have seen things that have required you to update your understanding of physics, consciousness, time, and the structural assumptions underlying most of Western philosophy. The library is real, and it is infinite, and it is accessible through doors that appear in places where knowledge accumulates, and the Serpent's Hand, who use it as both home and headquarters, believe something that is either the most naive or the most radical position you have encountered in this work. They believe anomalies have rights. Not all of them. They're not unreasonable. But the category of anomalous entity that is conscious, self-aware, possessed of something that functions like interiority, these, the hand argues, are not objects to be contained. They are persons to be considered. You sit with this in the library for an afternoon, which is an experience you cannot fully describe and will spend years trying to. The library doesn't care about your clearance level. It doesn't have a filing system, or rather, it has one so vast and non-linear that it amounts to the same thing. You read things you weren't supposed to know. Not secrets exactly. Perspectives. The view from inside containment. The account of things the Foundation has classified as objects, describing what it is to be classified as an object. You leave and file a report that is significantly shorter than your actual notes. This is the most dishonest thing you have done in this work. You're not sure it was wrong. Level 7. The Administrator. The O5 Council meets in a place you won't specify, because specifying it would be the kind of detail that has historically resulted in a category of problem that requires a new filing system. You are not O5. You will probably never be O5. O5 are people who have been in this work long enough that the work has become their entire frame of reference, which is either wisdom or a specific type of damage, and possibly both simultaneously. What you are is someone who has now seen every faction from the inside, who has filed reports for the Foundation, observed the GOC, sat in the library, attended the meeting you didn't fully understand, and spent enough time in enough rooms to understand something that none of the faction's literature fully captures. Everyone is right about something. The Foundation is right that containment is necessary. The insurgency is right that hoarding is a choice with consequences. The Coalition is right that some things need to end. The Hand is right that consciousness complicates the object category. Everyone is also wrong about something. Specifically, each faction is wrong about the thing their correct belief makes them most confident about. Certainty, you've learned, is the anomaly that requires the most careful containment of all. It spreads. It classifies things incorrectly. It files the wrong reports. You sit in a chair at a table where significant decisions happen, and you think about the folder you opened in the room that is officially an agricultural supply logistics office. You think about initialing the paragraph. You think about the things you've seen since. You do not think, importantly, that you would have done it differently. The world needs people in these rooms. It just also needs people who remember what it looked like before they were cleared for it. Somewhere tonight, in a city you'd recognize, in a building that officially doesn't exist, a junior researcher is opening a folder for the first time. There's a photograph inside. They're looking at it with the specific expression of someone whose understanding of possible has just had its load-bearing wall removed. They'll initial the paragraph. They'll spend the rest of their life wondering if that was the right call. They probably won't regret it. Nobody does. That's the strangest thing of all.